Hello. In this module of Python programming language control structure, we have discussed for loop. A loop is fundamental programming idea that is commonly used in writing a computer program. It is a sequence of instruction that is repeated until a certain condition is reached. A for loop has two sections: a header specifying the iterating condition and a body which is executed once for iteration. The header often declares an explicit loop counter or loop variable, which allows the body to know which iteration is being executed. To the flow of for loop. Start, then initialization, if condition true, then code inside loop. Update counter, once again check the condition. If it is true, then update counter, condition, and then if it is false, stop. Syntax: for item in sequence and the statements a block is executed. Using for loop in Python list. This is the example. Like directions are given north, east, west, and south. For pole in direction, so print pole. So in this condition, poles are whatever the listed in direction that gives the output: north, east, west, and south. Let's try to run this program. Direction north, east, west, and south, and for pole in direction, print pole. So all the direction are printed. Here direction is a sequence contains a list of direction. When the for loop executed, the first item, in this case north, is assigned to the variable pole. After this, the print statement will execute and the process will continue until we reach the end of the list. Next, using for loop in Python tuple. Like colors in tuple is listed red, blue, and green. For color in colors, print color. So all the colors are printed: red, blue, and green. We try to run this program. And so red, green, and blue. Using for loop in Python dictionary. So we discuss for loop in list and tuple. Now in dictionary. So my dictionary was defined dictionary with empty tuple. My dictionary high, that is equal to 100. My dictionary medium, that is equal to 50. My dictionary low, that is equal to 0. For variable var in my dictionary, print %s, %d, percentage of variable, comma, my dictionary in list variable. So in this case, first print high with value of 100, then print medium with value of 50, and then low with 0. Let's try to run this program in the Jupyter notebook. So dictionary is defined. We have created this value, and lastly print. So high with value is 100, medium 50, and low 0. Using for loop in Python string. So here string Python is created. For C in string, this is variable. In str, print C. So every character is printed. Python. So let's try to run this program. So every line is executed. Every word is executed. Python as it is. So this is Python. So this is for loop in Python string. Next, Python for loop range function. The range function in for loop is actually a very powerful mechanism when it comes to creating sequence of integers. It can take 1, 2, or 3 parameters. It returns or generates a list of integers from some lower bound, 0 by default, up to but not including some upper bound, possibly in increment steps of some other number. 1 by default is 1. Note, for Python 3 user, there are no separate range and xrange function in Python 3. There is just a range, which follow the design of Python 2's xrange. These are different use of range function: range stop, range with start and stop, range with start, stop, and step. By default, step is 1. It is important to note that all parameters must be integer and can be positive or negative. Okay, must integer. Python range function with one parameter. So this is the syntax: range stop generate number up to, but not including this number. Like if 10 is there, so from 0 it started, but 10 is not included. Example, for n in range 4, print n. So it starts from 0 up to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 is not included. This is the output. So let's try to run this program in Jupyter Notebook. 0, 1, 2, and 3. It can be thought of working like this: I equal to 0, print I equal to 1, print I equal to 2, print I equal to 2, print I. So you can see that I gets the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the same time, but rather sequentially. Here 4 is not here. Python range function with two parameters. Syntax: range start and stop. Start for generating or starting number of the sequence, and stop to generate number up to but not including this number. Example, for n in range 5 to 10, print n. So in this case, output is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 is not included. So we try to run this program. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The range start stop generate a sequence with the number start plus 1 up to stop minus 1. The last number is not included. Python range function with three parameters. Syntax: start, stop, comma, step. Start for starting number of the sequence, stop for generate numbers up to but not including this number, step difference between each number in the sequence. For example, for n in range 0, 10, 3. So in this case, print start from 0, 10 is not included in the step of 3. So 0, 3, then plus 3, 6, plus 3, 9. So output is 0, 3, 6, and 9. Just try to run this program. So 0, 3, 6, and 9. Here the start value is 0 and end value is 10 and step is 3. This means that the loop starts from 0 and end at 10 and the increment value is 3. Python range function can define an empty sequence like range -10 or range 10 by 4. In this case, the for block will not be executed because 10 to 4 means reverse direction is not executed. For example, like for I in range -10, print Python range 4, this will be not executed. So there is no execution of this particular program. So the above code won't be executed. Also, you can use Python range for repeat some action several times. How this? So for I in range 2 multiplied by 2, so 4 times. So 0, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Print Python range. So let's try to run this program. So Python range 2 power of 2, so 2 multiplied by 2. So Python range is defined. Then next, decrement for loop. If you want to decrement for loop, you need to give the range minus step. Like for I in range 5 to 0, so range is -1. So print I. So in this case, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in decrement order, it is printed, but not 0. Okay, so let's try to run this program. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. So accessing index in for loop for Python. Python built-in invalid function allow developer to loop over a list and retrieve both the index and the value of each item in the containing list. It reduces the visual clutter by hiding the accounting for the indexes and encapsulating the iterable into another iterable that yields a two-item tuple of the index and the item that the original iterable would provide. So let's try to understand with the help of this particular example from month. Months, that is January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. For IDs, index, M name, month's name. In enumerate, months, comma, start equal to 1 from 1. So at the end, what is printed? Print months in first bracket, value to value, that dot format IDX, so IDX first, and M name is month name. So let's try to run this program. So months, in this case it is an IDX, so index 1, then M name means month name, so that is printed here. So let's try to run this program. So months, 1 January, 2 February, 3 March, 4 April. So this is printed 6 June, 7 July, 8 August, 9 September, 10 October, 11 November, and 12 December. Now the start is equal to 1. Option to enumerate here is optional. If we didn't specify this, we will start counting at 0 by default. So what is the happen if 1 is not specified? Then it start from 0. Python enumerate function perform an iterable where each element is a tuple that contains the index of the item and the original item value. So this function is meant for accessing each item in the list or another data table, also getting the index of each item access, iterate over two lists simultaneously. So in the following Python program, we are looping over two lists at the same time using the indexes to look up corresponding element. Like example, grades high, medium, or low. So value is 0.75, 0.50, and 0.25. For I, comma, grading enumerate in bracket grade. So value is equal to values list of I. So print. So this is first values. Percentage, that is given. Percentage format is value multiplied by 100. So, and finally grade. Grade is high, medium, or low. So first format value dot 100 is in the first printed. So value is 0.75, that is multiplied by 100 because value multiplied by 100. So 75.0. Then percentage. Then second is grade. So grade is high. So that is the output. Then 50 into 50.0 medium and 10 25.0 low. Let's try to run this program. So that's it. Using Python zip in for loop. The Python zip function takes multiple lists and returns an iterable that provides a tuple of the corresponding element of each list as we loop over it. Grade high, medium, or low, as it is value 0.75, 0.50, 0.25. For grade, value in zip, grade comma value. So output is same, but in this case, it takes multiple lists and returns a iterable that provide a tuple. So output is same in earlier case, like print. There is parenthesis indicate value on multiply 100, so 0.75 multiplied by 100, and its second is grade. So let's try to run this program. Output is same as it is in earlier case. Then next nested for loop in Python. This is a simple figure to understand how nested for loop in Python is work. Syntax for iterating variable in sequence. Then next, say nested. So for iterating variable in sequence, statement of particular block is executed. Statement is executed. Example for outer in the range 1 to 5. So that is the outer loop. For nested in range 1 to 5. So this is the inner loop. Then result is outer multiplied by nested and print result and equal to code. And finally print. So first outer in range 1 to 5. Okay, so this is first for nested in range 1 to 5. So 1, 2, 1 is there, 2, 3, 4 is there, 5 is not included. Then result outer into nested. So this is multiplied with nested. So this multiply with 2, 4, 6, 2 multiplied by 2, 1, 2 multiplied by 2, 4, 2 multiplied by 3, 6, 2 multiplied by 4, 8. Then next case 3, because outer loop we have to work up to the outer loop, so outer loop is 5. So this loop is executed up to 4. 5 is not included, so this is the out. Okay, so this is the out. Here the Python programming first encountered the outer loop, executing its first iteration. This first iteration triggered the nested loop, which then runs the compilation. Then the program returns back to the outer loop, completing the second iteration, and again triggering the nested loop. Again the nested loop runs to completion and the program returns back to the top of the outer loop until the sequence is complete or break or other statement disrupt the process. The print function inner loop has a second parameter n equal to pop, which appends a space instead of default new line. Hence, the number will appear in a one row. Next, using else statement in Python loop. Unlike other popular programming language, Python also allows developers to use the else condition with for loop. Example, the first list 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 for numerator in list. If number or numerator greater than 5, then print list contain number greater than 5. So first check this list in this particular this if loop is check this lst list 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. If number is greater than 5, yes, it is there because 8 is there. So print list contain number greater than 5 and then break. Else, if it is not there, then print list contain number less than 5. So let's try to execute this program. So list contain number greater than 5 because it contains this value. In the above example, there is a list with integer number. While entering the for loop, each number is checked with greater than 5 or not. Here you can see the else execute only if the break is never reached and loop terminate after all iteration. Like in this case, if 8 is not there, then list contain this else is executed because now 8 number of 5 is not present in this particular list, so else block is executed. Thank you. This is the reference netinformation.com.